I don't think I understood the power of kindness until I met Perrito, and I know he's not real. He's animated, drawn into existence with a sock for a sweater, and eyes too big to belong to anything other than hope itself. But some part of him, it sticks. You don't forget a character like that. Not because he's loud or flashy, or because he has a tragic backstory, which he does, but because he chooses to smile in the middle of a world that tried to drown him in it. Literally, this tiny nameless dog, whose greatest act of defiance is still wagging his tail, gets thrown into a river in a sock by the only people he's ever known.
They get creative and they put me in a sock with a rock in it and then throw me in a river. I gnawed a hole in the sock and I swam to the surface.
And he doesn't come out angry. He doesn't come out broken. He comes out warm, loving, open. And I swear I've met 1,000 so-called heroes in film and literature in real life, but none of them taught me what it means to survive like Perrito did. He's not a legend, not a warrior, not famous, not feared. He's just good. And I don't mean nice, I mean deeply, instinctively good. That rare, quiet kind of goodness that doesn't scream to be seen. It just is. And the fact that we call him comic relief, I think that says more about us than it does about him. Because if he's the joke, then the punchline is that everyone else around him is too wounded, too cynical, too proud to see how happy they could be. Even Puss in Boots. He's the cat with 9 lives, the legend, the daredevil, the fighter. But when we meet him, he's not any of those things. He's afraid, not just of death, but of being forgotten, of mattering less, of being vulnerable. The only thing scarier to Puss than dying is having to admit he's alone. So of course he mocks Perrito at first. Of course he calls him annoying. That's what people do when they see joy they've long buried in themselves. They ridicule it. Because it's easier to laugh at hope than admit you've lost it.
Who is this guy?
I'm Puss's best friend.
No, he isn't.
And his therapy dog.
Definitely not.
Finally, you need therapy.
And Perrito just sits there like a sponge for everyone's fear, smiling, wagging, listening. He doesn't need to be liked, he just wants to help. There's a moment where Puss has a full-blown panic attack, the kind that claws into your chest like death's hands are squeezing the air out of you, and Perrito doesn't talk. He doesn't give advice. He just lies down next to him, places his head gently on Puss's stomach, and for a second I forgot this was a DreamWorks movie, because what I was watching wasn't animation, it was therapy. That's co-regulation, by the way, a real psychological term. When one person's calm body helps someone else's chaotic nervous system come back to peace. Children experience this with caregivers, dogs with owners, but in this moment, Puss is the child. Perrito is the caregiver, which is insane, but it's also true. Because here's the secret. Perrito doesn't look traumatized, but he is. He's been through more than most of the characters in this film. He's just metabolized that pain differently. Where death made Puss spiral into existential dread, where betrayal made Kitty Softpaws hide behind trust issues, Perrito went through abandonment, cruelty, and loneliness, and somehow came out the other side more alive than the rest of them combined.
I don't believe you.
That's okay, as long as you believe in yourself. What?
Is he deranged?
Yep.
Wow, yeah, now that's a good name. There's music in a name like that. Kitty Softpaw.
How does someone look into the face of such deep rejection and still decide to be soft? Most people become walls after that. He became a blanket. It reminds me of something Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning, and it's eerie how perfectly it fits Perrito's energy. Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Perrito chose his attitude, and he didn't just choose happiness, he chose joy, which is so much harder, because happiness depends on what's happening. Joy doesn't. Joy is defiant. And maybe that's why Perrito doesn't want the wishing star. He's the only character who isn't chasing something external. He's already full. He doesn't want glory like Puss. He doesn't want connection like Kitty. He doesn't want power like Jack Horner. He just wants to be with the people he loves, even if those people don't love him back yet.
Wait, what's going on with his eyes? Oh, they're getting bigger. Oh, Kitty! You gotta trust him. Look at those eyes.
Really? You call that cute?
Oh, look at her.
I think that kind of love scares people. It's unconditional, unapologetic. He's not trying to earn it. He's not begging for it. He's just offering it freely, without strings. And that breaks something in us when we see it, because deep down, I think we know that's what we've always wanted to receive and what we're terrified to give. Because what if we give love like that and it's rejected? Perrito gives it anyway. That's bravery. We talk about bravery like it's fighting dragons or standing up to villains. But I think bravery is asking someone how their day was when they forgot yours. Bravery is letting your guard down when no one asked you to. Bravery is saying, I love you first, and not needing to hear it back. Bravery is being the softest person in the room and not apologizing for it. There's this archetype in storytelling called the holy fool. You see it in characters like Prince Mishkin in Dostoevsky's The Idiot, or Forrest Gump, or Paddington Bear. They're not naive, they're not stupid, they're pure, and their purity exposes everyone else's fear. Perrito is cut from that same cloth. Everyone in this film is more powerful than him. Every villain could crush him in an instant. He has no claws, no magic, no name, no lineage, no plan. He's got a sock. That's it.
Team friendship.
Team friendship.
Partner.
No, just a placeholder name, you know. I'll workshop it, okay? Go get him, Tiger.
Hey, take it easy.
But no one breaks him.
No,
He
that's
walks
the thing,
straight
too.
into
I think
darkness
I'll
without
just
blinking.
stick with Perrito.
Not because he doesn't see
Kinda
it, but
like
because
it,
he doesn't let it
since
change his
that's what my
light.
friends call
I think
me.
about that more than I should. There's a quote by Carl Jung that says, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And it hit me one day that Perrito isn't trying to become anything. He's already there. He has nothing to prove, no image to defend, no legend to protect. He just is, fully, completely. And maybe that's what makes him so dangerous to ego-driven characters like Puss, because ego doesn't survive well next to authenticity. It either adapts or breaks. And Puss does break. There's a point in the film where he sees death not as an idea, but a presence. That whistle, that panic, that cold breath down his neck, and he runs because he's not afraid of dying. He's afraid of dying alone. He's afraid of being unremembered. He's afraid of not mattering. And yet the entire time, there's this little dog padding beside him, happy just to be there, not needing a legend, not asking for protection, just there. He is what the wishing star can't give, what power can't earn, what fame can't buy, a witness, a friend, a reminder that you are still worthy even when you're not the legend. And I think that's what undoes Puss in the end, not the sword, not death, but softness. Because softness forces you to put your armor down. And when someone is kind to you after you've spent years...
Thank you, Perrito.
What's going on with you, Puss?
I am down to my last life, and I am afraid.
There's no defense against being seen, and Perrito sees everyone. He sees Kitty when she pretends not to care. He sees Puss when he tries to laugh away fear. He even sees Jack Horner and doesn't flinch when faced with cruelty. He doesn't mirror people's darkness. He offers a new reflection, and he doesn't do it to change them. He does it because that's who he is. I once read something about dogs being emotional barometers, how they can sense when something is wrong before we can say it out loud, and watching Perrito, I started to believe it. Because there's this strange, poetic thing about him. He doesn't fix anyone. He just exists in a way that makes healing feel possible. He's not a therapist, but he makes therapy unnecessary. He's not a hero, but he makes you want to be one. He's not real, but something about him feels more human than most people I've met. And that's where the emotion catches me. Because it's easy to write off characters like Perrito as silly, wholesome, cute, safe. But I think we do that because we're scared to admit we need them. We need someone to believe in us when we stop believing in ourselves. We need someone to sit beside us when words fail. We need someone to see us, not for what we were or what we're afraid we might become, but just as we are, in this moment.
Wonderful! Oh, but no. This is your quest. I don't want to impose.
You hold him up.
Really?
But don't you cross me, or your name will be Perro Muerto.
Okie dokie.
Somewhere along the way, we started thinking that strength meant distance. That power came from being untouchable. The world teaches us to be guarded, to sharpen our edges, to harden our hearts, to never let anyone see the parts of us that tremble. But Perrito, he is what happens when someone walks through fire and chooses not to burn anyone with it. And I guess that's the difference between surviving and healing. Surviving is instinct. Healing is a choice. Survival says, don't trust. Healing says, I'll try again anyway. Perrito tries again every single moment. He greets rejection like it's a new friend he hasn't won over yet. He doesn't see people as dangerous, he sees them as hurting. And that shift in perspective, it's quiet, but it's revolutionary. We live in a time where everyone is guarded. Everyone's got a mask. Whether it's an Instagram filter or sarcasm or being too busy, we've created a culture that celebrates avoidance and calls it independence. But Perrito's independence doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from wholeness. He doesn't need you to validate him because he's already decided he's enough.
Scrounging grub, oafish, munching, mangy, nugget, and your snooter.
I like the cut of his jib.
And I wonder what our world would look like if more people made that decision for themselves. Not based on achievement, not based on attention, but based on a quiet knowing that you're worthy simply because you exist. There's this scene that lives rent-free in my mind. Perrito, in his tiny voice, says something like, "You guys have had so many lives. I only had the one, but I wouldn't change a thing." And it hit me like a brick to the soul, because that's not naivety, that's contentment, that's self-acceptance at a level most of us never reach. Puss had 9 lives and wasted most of them chasing legacy, fame, glory, and this dog, this nobody, had 1 life, nearly drowned in a sock, and still wouldn't trade it. That line isn't cute, it's devastating, because it calls us out. How many of us are on our 5th, 6th, maybe even 9th metaphorical life, still wishing we were someone else, still resenting where we came from, still trying to buy joy or earn love? Perrito had none of that, and still found meaning. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how," and that's the secret. Perrito's why isn't survival, it's connection, and it's enough. That terrifies people like Jack Horner, because Jack represents a different type of trauma response, one that says, if I can collect everything, power, magic, control, then maybe I'll finally matter. Jack isn't a villain because he's evil, he's a villain because he's empty. He's the result of chasing worth in all the wrong places. The star doesn't save him, because no star can fill a void you refuse to face. But Perrito, he faces his void every day, smiles at it, pets it, puts a little sock on it, and calls it family. I don't think he wants the star because deep down he knows the truth. Wishing for a better life is fine, but accepting your life, even the broken parts, is how you start to heal. It's such a subtle message. But the more I sit with it, the more powerful it becomes. Because Perrito doesn't just survive the story, he transforms everyone in it, softly, quietly, just by being there. Which reminds me of something Mr. Rogers once said, there are 3 ways to ultimate success. The first way is to be kind, the second way is to be kind, the third way is to be kind. Perrito embodies this, not performative kindness, not transactional kindness, but real, grounding, unglamorous kindness, like listening when someone talks about something that doesn't interest you, like sitting with someone in silence while they fall apart, like making jokes even when your own heart is heavy, just to lift someone else's. He does these things without needing recognition.
I'm glad you asked. When people feel bad, they can rub my belly. It'll make them feel better.
What's happening?
Rub.
Hard, Buzz.
Come on, rub. I need the practice. I'm gonna be a therapy dog someday. Rub my belly.
No.
Come on.
And honestly, I think he might be the only character in that film who knows who he is. That kind of emotional clarity, it's not cute, it's terrifying. Because when someone like Perrito enters your life, you can't hide anymore. He's not judging you, but he sees you. He sees what you're pretending not to feel. He sees the loneliness behind the jokes, the fear behind the pride, the pain behind the silence. And he doesn't try to fix you. He just sits beside you. And that breaks you in the best way possible. It's not just that he calms Puss during a panic attack, it's how he does it. No words, no advice, no pressure, just presence, which is the most underrated healing force in the world. Psychologically speaking, what Perrito gives Puss is called emotional attunement. It's when someone meets you where you are, emotionally, and stays there until you're ready to come back up. It's what children need to feel safe, what adults forget they're allowed to need. It's what most of us were denied growing up, and when we finally receive it, like Puss does, it breaks us open. Because we realize how long we've gone without it. That's what makes Perrito the soul of the movie. Not the magic, not the sword fights, not the wishing star, but the quiet moments, the laying down next to someone and letting them breathe moments. The moments where you say, I'm here, I'm not leaving, you don't have to be okay yet. Those are the moments that change people. that make legends step off their pedestal and become human again. And maybe that's the real message, that you don't need 9 lives to matter. You don't need to be a legend. You don't need to be remembered forever. You just need to love well in the life you have, to show up, to sit beside someone in the dark, to bring warmth even when you've been cold before. There's something holy in that.
I got a great story and a free sweater out of it. Win-win.
Dude, you didn't win. You, of all people, should have a wish.
I already have a comfy sweater and 2 best friends. I got everything I could wish for. No magic required.
We're so obsessed with changing the world, leaving a legacy, making an impact. But what if the most world-changing thing you ever do is make someone feel safe in their worst moment? What if the most heroic act isn't defeating death, but loving someone who's already given up? That's what Perrito does, over and over again. He doesn't slay dragons, he doesn't fight villains, he disarms them with love. That kind of love is rare, and it's scary, because it demands that you open yourself to pain, but Perrito opens himself anyway. He doesn't just wear his trauma on his sleeve, he wears it on his entire body. His sweater, his story, his whole being is built from the thing that was supposed to kill him, and instead of hiding it, he wears it like armor. Not hard armor, not spiked or sharp, but soft, gentle, real. And isn't that the most beautiful kind of strength? The kind that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. We don't need more invincible characters. We need more vulnerable ones. Ones who bleed and cry and still choose love. Ones who stand beside us when we've forgotten how to stand ourselves. Ones who remind us without ever saying it out loud that life, this one, singular, messy, painful, beautiful life, is enough. Perrito reminds us of that. He doesn't change the world. Let's now talk about his backstory, or back tragedy. This is the part where we say trauma builds character, to feel better about the horrors of life, the horrors of people, to get through the pain. This scene, this ridiculous, absurd, hilarious, horrifying, beautiful little monologue, this is everything. If you really sit with it, it's the most devastating and uplifting moment in the whole film. Perrito recounts what is essentially childhood trauma and attempted murder, and he wraps it in laughter, not because it doesn't hurt, but because he refuses to let the pain define him. And that's rare. That's not denial. That's a mastery of meaning. That's psychological alchemy.
They get creative and they put me in a sock with a rock in it and then throw me in a river.
You could study that line in a trauma therapy course. This is abandonment at its most primal. It's not just rejection, it's the active disposal of someone's existence. A child, a pet, any sentient being thrown away like trash.
I gnawed a hole in the sock and I swam to the surface. Never found them or my litter mate, so I guess I'm still it.
That's not just survival, that's symbolic rebirth. The sock is a womb, the river is death. The chewing, the climbing, the surfacing, it's a dog being born into a world that didn't want him and still choosing to live. It's Perrito choosing to surface. That right there could be stitched into the words of Carl Jung, who said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." He chose to become joy. So I guess I'm still it. He reframes it as a game. He's literally turned trauma into play. Psychologists call this recontextualization, when someone rewrites the narrative of their suffering to gain control, meaning, and peace. And Perrito nails it, not out of ignorance, but resilience. He's reframing the story so it doesn't cage him.
Well, joke's on them. That sock they put me in, I grew into it.
That's one of the most poetic lines in modern animated film. The weapon they tried to kill him with became his identity. His trauma became his armor. His story became his style. He didn't shed the past, he wore it.
So, I got a great story and a free sweater out of it. Win-win!
I can't think of a better metaphor for post-traumatic growth. He doesn't ignore the darkness. He holds it, laughs at it, and makes it part of his light.
Dude, you didn't win. You, of all people, should have a wish.
I already have a comfy sweater and 2 best friends. I got everything I could wish for. No magic required.
This is insane wisdom coming from the comic relief. In a world where everyone is trying to rewrite their destiny through force, power, or fantasy, Perrito finds contentment in what is. No wish, no change, just presence. It's Buddhist, stoic, human. This whole monologue deserves to be studied like scripture. It's soft armor, it's pain turned into peace. It's a love letter to resilience disguised as a goofy little dog story. So if you ever feel like you're not enough, If you ever feel like you're not powerful enough, successful enough, brave enough, remember Perrito, and remember that you don't have to be anything other than kind, that you don't have to be remembered forever to matter right now, that you don't need 9 lives, you just need the courage to live the one you have with love. And if no one said it today, I will. You're enough, you're seen, and you're not alone. Not where there's Perritos in this world, real or imagined, waiting to sit beside you in the dark. No fanfare, no legend, just love. So that's the end of this video. Try something different. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If there's other episodes or shows or even from this movie, The Last Wish, you'd like to hear, please drop a comment and let me know and try to add it to the schedule. All right, thanks. Look forward to the next video. Take care. Peace.